Greetings and salutations. Thanks for tuning in to All of Us Sinners Season 2, Episode 1, entitled Freedom to Live. We will be picking up a week after Season 1's epilogue. And I am nobody, your storyteller, #1 fan, and narrator of All of Us Sinners Season 2. We're just waiting on the other players to arrive, and then we will dive in. Thank you. Greetings and salutations. How we doing?
Pretty good. Got home a little later than I wanted, so
Yeah.
let me, I guess, switch to lyrics. I like that we can have different
Yeah.
profiles, but I wish they would let us save them. We could just.
Hey, hey.
What's up?
Not all that much. It'd make things a little bit easier if you could. Just switch back and forth like on Pro Board or Envision.
Yeah.
Alright, so, but other than that, I think that there is all cylinders firing, points due forward. While we wait for anyone else that might show up, do we have any questions, suggestions, all of that good stuff?
Sorry, I'm doing some bookkeeping for the coast here.
Aha. Wait, bookkeeping? What do we forget? You guys are always pretty spot on about handling all of the beautiful chaos that is the coast.
Well, sometimes things get added to the other Discord, sometimes they don't, and then I'm the one that maintains all of the XP database, so I have to put all these new characters in.
Yeah. Wonder why we got out of the habit of that. And then for a while it was back and forth. Everyone would tag in and switch off. Well, what's going on, Jacob? How we doing?
Testing, hello.
Why, hi. How we doing?
Surviving.
That is a usual good thing. Living is better, but we'll take surviving.
I'm still in the process of adjusting my sleep schedule, so.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, you never adjust.
Yeah, actually, about that. So, got a call today,
Oh,
and day shift position is now open as well.
aha. Which would you prefer, honestly?
I would prefer a day shift, so I'm going to take the day shift position.
Aha. Well, that's a good thing. You have a finite approximation for how long that's going to take. And by the way, hello, hello, hello. Noble, how we doing?
I hear her talking, but she didn't push the button or something.
Pesky buttons. All right. Just looking at.
And I'm playing what would have been an NPC, but I didn't have a convenient connection for Jacob. I don't think they quite run in the same circles.
Not in the slightest.
A little difference, a little variety should be a good thing, right? Everyone brings a little something different to the mix.
That's the hope, anyway.
I'll just give Noble a few more moments to sort out their tech issues. And then.
In theory, it should be okay.
There you go. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. How's everyone?
Doing alright.
Yay!
Not bad overall.
I briefly heard about the switch to daytime eventually.
Yes.
Yay!
All right. Well, this is a story we've all heard before. This is a story that we've all been a part of before. So, once more from the top with a feeling, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and welcome to All of Us Sinners. You know the story. It's a group of monstrous, undead, unliving facsimiles of humans. And in of all places where this very personal, very dark story is taking place, it is in fact New York. Not just New York, but Manhattan itself. When people mention the city, In the New York City area, they are solely talking about the island of Manhattan. It is the center of the world. It is such the center of the world that while it makes no sense whatsoever, there is a London office of the New York Police Department. And while it makes no sense in all of the world why it is not the official capital of these United States, it is not. Instead, we have a city-state that doesn't exist as either and has the benefits of neither while taking all the problems of both as our national capital. Whereas Manhattan, New York, is the grand melting pot. It was the idea. It was the major source of import, export, trade, commercialization, and globalization of these United States. Manhattan is. And as far as what it is, that varies. There are just as many perceptions on that reality as there are locals, tourists, occasional natives that inhabit the Manhattan area. This goes doubly and triply for the kindred who have been in and around the city since its burgeoning, faltering first steps. It has changed hands from the Tower to the Sabbat to loosely the Anarchs for a few weeks in full open revolt to the Tower and back to the Sword of Cain. And throughout all of those shifting, changing of hands, there's been a seedy underbelly of outliers, malcontents, autarkists who refuse to bend the knee to any and every flag save their own, and adding injury to insult. Even now, in the grand accepted reality that New York, and specifically Manhattan, is the tower, there are burgeoning, always there shadows of the remnants of the sword, the Laban councils from the United Places of Africa, the Wan Kwai from far east, and all of their many courts and sub-kingdoms who have representatives mixing and mingling with the now officially accepted, fully tower New York. In other words, there are a million stories in the cities, and a million more that will never be heard, will never be understood. And while you have to be there to see it, to believe it, even that doesn't shed the clearest, brightest light of fact on what actually occurred. This is the first episode of the second season of All of Us Sinners. We will be starting a week after the epilogue of the first season. 7 days since that strangely, easily forgotten, small shifting of power that was at play throughout the first season. Through those turmoil-ridden moments, through the many conversations, and these group of kindred learning, seeing, and experiencing other perspectives outside of themselves in this city of a million tales. 7 full days. So we close our eyes and open our minds to the growing fortress of forest of buildings that is the Manhattan skyline, raising up out of the ocean in front of us as we approach from the east. We come in across the harbor, across the bay, the several score of dozens of large and small bridges connecting the central island with all of its far-flung distant relatives. We swing past the boroughs, which each in and of themselves are cities unto themselves, teeming masses, places that For lack of space, humankind, family to family, person to person, has been built to top another for generations. There are apartments that have served as the birthplace for entire colonies of families, all with walls that are enough that you can hear the next family breathing or snoring in their sleep. A place so congested that it has more persons per capita per square mile than most average American cities. Not the towns or the villages even. The full-fledged cities with functioning or semi-functioning mass transit. The fully functioning cities which have infrastructures that take care of the day-to-day. The fully functioning cities that understand that the best government is an invisible one. So streets and sanitation, police and fire, first responders, and several other city organizations layered on top of each other to maintain the management and maintenance of the environment. And with all of that, New York still is the king of populations, the king of the insanity of modern times. Lights, cameras, action, busyness, a constant motion that makes it easy for kindred who only experience half the day at best to blend in. In New York, everyone knows not to make eye contact. In New York, everyone knows to work with the flow or work even harder to get absolutely nowhere. Don't stop in the middle of the sidewalk. Don't walk 3 and 4 abreast. Don't take up someone else's space because they will violently defend their right to be wherever it is they are. And you should do the same. So, envisioning the city in our mind and the teeming masses moving at all hours of the day and night, Baby doll, the sun has set. All of the hustle and bustle of the day has only just doubled because the sun is now down. Now the hustle and bustlers are meeting and mingling with the movers and shakers, the dregs of society, the kings of empires that no one would dare to even mention, the dealers, the wheelers, and all steps in between. The noise of the daylight vistas replaced by the music of the night. Less honking cars, more busy people heading where they're going, seeking some escape from themselves. How does Baby Doll resurrect for the evening?
Well, she would likely find herself at home in her basement apartment that she shares with 3 other girls. Um, she would roll herself out of her bed, toss on some probably dirty, ripped up jeans and an old punk rock t shirt, open the door and walk out into the apartment, not saying anything to anybody, grabbing on a pair of boots and a jacket and out into the night because there are way more interesting things outside than inside. Beyond that, she would probably look up and down the street and try to decide where the night is going to take her because there's always something interesting to do. You just have to find it.
Finding interest doesn't require quite that much effort on her part. Her place there on Avenue A, almost directly cat-a-corner from Tompkins Park, with its Hare Krishna tree and Slocum Memorial Fountain, is a hustling and bustling place. It only gets busier after dark because there on the East Playground, there's usually a jam session of modern nativists who gather with drums and pipes and bottles and all manner of noisemakers to try to create a musical symphony from the day-to-day life to escape the burdens of the city in this small space of green. The, which is a great idea. Save in that same niche scene of all of these hippie artists and back to nature survivalists who probably have never spent more than a night anywhere save their apartments. There is a large facet of them that exploit the need and want to escape. There are dealers of all sorts of exotic escape chemicals and herbs. And no, 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 this one's natural, baby. We don't step on anything. Oh, no, 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 no. You have to keep it down, keep it down. You want to take a sip of this, that you can have as much as you like, but be careful. You need a place to sit down afterwards the first couple of times. Or, I don't do all of that imbibing. I go 36 hours between meals, and then the first time you have the taste of bread, it changes your life. It is, for the average visitor to the East Village and for the average person, it is a place to avoid once the sun goes down. All the noise and the partying, and as many times as the PD chases them on their way, they always return. And it seems to work antithetical to the efforts of the police, because while yes, the park closes officially at 11 p.m., however, the parties go until 3, 4, sometimes sunrise, because the more they chase the partiers away, the more word spreads and the more of them come back. 3 weeks ago, a cop got pushed out into Avenue B and nearly run over by a cab because they refused to accept that the more they pushed the naturers out, the more they came back. Cameras in hand for some looky-loos. Others just came back with more and more escapism in their system. And it's gotten to the point where most beat cops in the area leave the place alone, because they seem to, by dint of forcing everyone out, cause the situation to grow farther and farther out of hand. So, as expected, when the sun having gone down, staring out across Avenue A at Tompkins Park, you can see the crowd slowly growing all the way there on the far side. The park itself is literally 3 by 3 blocks in the center of the space, but it seems like it's its own world, sprinkled through the paths, and here and there are trees and wildness just there. And yet, even with all that nature standing between you and the burgeoning sounds of the symphony starting up, you can feel that pulse of life. And while your roommates ignored you because that's what you do, if you wanted to say hi, you would have said hi, damn Cheryl, and her insistence on greetings. Every night is the same damn thing, unless of course Cheryl has parties to get to or some place to be. She stares and stares daggers into you, being completely no better than you are. At least you have an excuse. You're actually dead. Her excuse is she's been dead inside for years.
She still tastes good, though, so she serves a purpose.
So what to do, what in fact to do?
That is always the question.
Which is a good one to have, especially in tonight's day and age, as it were. You're not sure how many times over the course of your existence pausing at just the right moment to catch, or as one of your musical icons said, you gotta play the notes between the sheet music, baby. And that pause to catch the vibe has made all the difference in the world several times over. This is such a situation. If you had but stepped off the curb a second sooner, if you had in fact moved forward to chase the instinctual teasing touch of vitality and vibrancy that was there in the park, you'd be spread across someone's windshield right now. The dark, of course tinted of course, expensive SUV which screeches to a halt not more than 5, 6 feet past you, and you're sure that the driver is not even paying attention to you. And in that light of consideration, we slide along. Jacob, 7 days, 7 nights, 7 moments of decisions. Because that's what life actually is. A series of decisions adding up to experiences, appreciated or not, form the scope and scale of someone's existence. You dare not say life because that was stolen from you because of the promise of what you are. And it's hard to not make that connection between the promise that you were talked into and how you've heard so many parents, and sadly, including some of your own, mention you're not living up to your potential, Jacob. Sean, Sebastian, Tiffany, Brittany. You've heard it over and over again. Not always directed at you, but it definitely feels very symbolic of that every time you've heard it. Every time you heard someone on their phone whispering hushed and hurriedly into their phone speaking to their parents, you can hear the disappointment and you can almost memorize how they're saying it. It varies based on language, based on age, based on whether they're attempting to be a very gentle parent, but it still comes off the same. You're not living up to your potential. 7 nights. The day is over. How is Jacob beginning this night?
Um, as he usually does, he's trying desperately to find some kind of breakthrough in his research. So he most likely died and woke up in the middle of another experiment. So he'll be resuming that once again.
In light of his persistence, in light of the insanity of his existence, at least the insanity as coined and defined by Einstein, insanity being, of course, doing the same thing and expecting different results. What is the nature of the experiment that's sitting there mostly dead in front of him?
I'm gonna say that this particular experiment is an attempt to artificially strengthen kindred vitae, or rather to concentrate it. He basically has some of his own blood on a petri dish, and he's been trying to apply various chemicals to it to see if he can somehow make it more concentrated and more potent, all to no avail.
And that's where he is completely and totally wrong. Because as he compares the result with his significantly off the charts intelligence and his burgeoning understanding of blood sorcery, there was definitively a change, a small little nothing change, a small step, but everything begins with that first spark. And he would and was in the process of dismantling the experiment and starting over when realizing that there is, in fact, a change. Small though it is, nothing though it is. With intelligence 1 and his blood sorcery being at least 1, is it higher?
Intelligence is 4, blood sorcery is 1.
Which means he has an average of 2.5, which is 2. 2 is significant. You have incidentally done the impossible on the scale that could be at best considered minute. It is a small nothing that will guarantee being scoffed at for even noticing, but it is in fact there. It has in fact been there. He has in fact done something. But there's that nagging, niggling voice. He's not sure where he picked it up, somewhere along the course of his life, having heard it from so many different sources nearest and around him. He's exceeded everyone else's expectations. He's reached and grabbed the brass ring of his avocation. He literally has been the smartest person in his classes for a very long time. In fact, and including being smarter, more intelligent than some of his professors, some of his judges of character that they are. He's been more intelligent than them many steps of the way. And even now, looking at that small nothing progress, he's smarter than he even gave himself credit for. There's got to be some way to make it replicable, because he clearly has replicated it. But which step of the process, which spark was what did it? He's run these experiments so often that it's just more of the same, and that small change wouldn't have been noticed by him any other night, because without thinking, without an obvious nuclear level change, he would not have considered that small difference, that small improvement. It would have been cleaned and discarded and reset. But in this moment, by moving a hair bit slower, he realizes that minute difference.
And he is going to be furiously writing down notes and trying to record all the things that he did in this experiment so that he can follow up on this line of thinking in the next one.
The next
Small of a breakthrough as it is, it's a breakthrough, and he has been desperate for one for so long now.
desperation does many strange things to the living, the dead, and most steps in between. It's one of the many things that doesn't end when the body dies, when the kindred is born. It's one of the many things that often dictates and defines a kindred's night. Desperation. Living twice the life and half the time, with forever spinning out before you in one unchanged moment. That unchanging moment being resurrecting as soon as the sun breaks the horizon line, disappearing from sight. 7 nights is no time at all, especially for the kindred. Sun comes up, there's a blink, the sun goes down. There's no feeling of the time that passed, nor dreams to help cope with what everyone has dealt with. The dead don't dream. And speaking of the absence of dreams, lyric, resurrecting for the evening. Where does that leave us?
I'm going to assume that she knows Finn isn't accessible at the moment. Correct?
He hasn't been, which is the annoying part. All of his usual haunts, all of him popping up in the middle of something, distracting you from the day in and day out of work, existing. All of that dried up in an instant, in a flash. It's just quiet. peace has never been so
So
chaotic.
yeah, that would put her in the best of mood. Every day that goes by, there's a little more anger building. Um, Mostly, she's just gonna go check in at work because with all that other craziness that was going on, she hadn't really gone into the club. But she's going to do that tonight, and if something comes up, be ready to leave out. But for the most part, she's going to head to the club because she has to get at least show her face. So, freshening up and dressing, she will head out.
This is the first back. This is the first night back at this particular club, part of her circuit, because she had to make up for the days that she took off associating with Finn and the other members of that debacle. So is this the first night in 7 that she's back because she had to restart her cycle?
Yeah, this is the first night at this specific club. She already did her fill in at the one that she left the night that this all started. She's already been back to that one, but this is the new loop for her, so she's the first night back at this first club.
So she pushed her cycle back 3 days. She changed things. A small adjustment because of the time that was taken and because of the theft of her routine by what happened. 3 nights doesn't seem like any time at all when you have the rest of forever. However, while the kindred are promised the rest of forever, the world does not. The day in and out average human is very much aware of the passing of time, or the days of the week, for instance. You may not remember exactly the name of the day that you're on, and you may have to ask, triple, quadruple checking your phone to make sure, oh, yeah, it's Monday. Yeah. Oh, that's right, I'm closing tonight. Or, oh, crap, I'm opening tomorrow. Or, oh, crap, I got to get back to the office tomorrow. But it is a preeminent concern, time, for the average person. So walking through the door, dressed in your usual attire,
Yeah, probably like a pair of leggings with holes cut down the side and like a bathing suit top with the leather jacket over the top.
walking through the door, you hear, oh shit, she here!
Love you too.
Girl, the hell? Why couldn't you have stayed away another night? We had this envelope just fucking sitting here, and I'm sure there's money inside. It's all thick and fat. I was gonna have my cut of your shit, girl. You better head back to the office. I think Sonny might open it a day early. Sonny, of course, being short for Sonia, who is the second generation owner of the club. She's managed to take some of the easily viewable usury aspect of the club. There are bridal shower nights. There are a rotation of male strippers mixed in with the girls. It caters to the full spectrum of sexuality and sensuality, whereas before, to be perfectly honest, there were nights where you weren't sure that half the talent were actually even of legal majority. You didn't bother to ask because it would have made you an accessory after the fact, but you were pretty sure that some of those open mic nights that used to happen here were solely filled with overly developed high schoolers. You were sure that some of those nights the boys drinking together in the corner booth were not of legal majority. They just happened to have a good fake ID. You were sure that if not for Sonny taking over finally forcing her father and uncle into retirement, that you all would have been raided. All of these girls who depend on this place to get by, all of the freelancers who swing through bringing in new blood, all of that, if Sonny hadn't taken over, would have dried up quicker than a sweat bead in a desert. There's only so long you can keep going, riding the rails, being the wild, in actuality, criminal establishment it once was. But some things, the more they change, the more they remain. Which means the house always works towards winning. If your property is left there for too long, it is considered company property.
Puts on her best happy to be here smile. Doesn't quite reach her eyes right now, though. And was there an envelope out in the front for her, or is it in back in the office?
Oh, it's back in the office. Especially if it's as described. A fat envelope looking to be holding all manner of unmarked bills. That sounds too tempting.
Little bit worried about that, but at the same time, she could use the infusion of cash. So gift horses and mouths and all that. Uh, knocking. The door is usually open, but she's still gonna knock because it's polite.
It's cracked as it
Hey,
usually is, and you walk in to see Sunny in all of her middle shelf, bright waterfall red and a little orange with a few blonde highlights mixed in hair, sitting elbows on the desk, and you can tell that she, much like addicts presented with their drug of choice, is having a hard time not doing whatever it was that's sitting there on the desk. And there on the desk is a cream bond thick envelope that's clearly bulging through the middle. The sort of bulge that you know from having accepted more than your fair share of envelopes in lieu of a paycheck. You have an idea what's inside. And she looks up. Oh, hey, Eric, I didn't know you were coming in tonight. I was getting ready to take you off the schedule.
had a little bit of family issue that I had to sort out. We back to normal usually.
Yeah.
That for me?
Oh. And she just picks it up, not even bothering to make an excuse for what you know she was struggling with. An envelope, unmarked, unremarkable, save for the fact that you are sure, like most, when looking at that envelope, that there is a stack of bills inside. And as you take the envelope and turn to leave, New York is a go fast city. Even in its slowest period, even during the magic hour between 2 and 4 in the morning, where every human is slower. They're dreaming with their eyes open more times than not. Even those who've gotten accustomed to and are used to the nightlife, whether they work third shift, whether they overnight, the mind goes into a cycle where it slows down. Things don't seem as real. The threat of sleep seems all the more present. And even during the magic hour, New York is a go-fast city. There's always some movement. There's always some activity. There's always something happening and a need for someone or something to be somewhere else. These last 7 days have allowed you to get back to a semblance of normalcy. Night jobs, single night jobs. Here, there, back across the city several times. A few times all the way out to Island City. A few times all the way up to Timbuktu and back. The open road. All of the magic that happens. And here we are. 7 days of that in your system. The sun has disappeared beneath the horizon line, Penny. How do you begin this evening?
Much like she does any other night, like a princess in a fairy tale.
So you got birds singing and little cute rabbits talking to you?
I mean, in her brain, sure. I mean, she might be rich now, but that wasn't always the case.
Being rich has its perks, has its benefits. In New York, those benefits are not as far removed from the average person as they are most other places, say for the extreme wealth on the West Coast. In Manhattan, that difference between rich and just getting by is far slimmer than it should be. The wealth is apparent, the value inherent, and yet you are sure 3 nights ago when you were out near Greenpoint that you fucking saw someone wearing your one-of-a-kind, limited, signed, bright red leather jacket from the same designer, from the same exact tailoring. You were sure that you saw it. You didn't want to stop. You didn't have time to. Plus, you wanted to get as far away from Greenpoint as possible, as quickly as possible. There's just some bad things that go on that side of Williamsburg. It just is what it always has been. So, resurrecting for the
Clear.
evening.
Go ahead.
Just resurrecting
ahead.
for the evening.
That's it. She will lounge until she can lounge no more. It has apparently been a busy week.
And it has been. Taking a moment for yourself, even without the fatigue of the living, even with the physical fatigue, because the mind, even in kindred, only has a certain amount of elasticity, has only a certain amount of spring back based on the stressors that others put on you. How is Penny contacted usually? Word of mouth, person who knows a person, a kindred who knows a kindred who knows a kindred, or are there knocks upon the door at all hours of the evening? They're strange
Well,
phone calls.
the people who know her well would probably leave a message with at the desk downstairs.
There's a desk. And who tends the desk?
Well, that would be whoever the employee is working that particular day, as she does run a business downstairs after all.
Yes, so it's all above board. There aren't anything mentioned in those messages that could be easily provable as a violation of the masquerade. It wouldn't be anything stated in regards to blue bloods or the lunatics or those damn bruja. It would be need of your service, X place to arrange delivery or pickup. So it's all very innocuous, in other words.
Yes.
So with that, all messages being equal, all missives and summons and jobs being equally innocuously stated, how long would Penny lounge in her splendor, taking in the surroundings of her new state, her new normal?
She is probably dressed and downstairs after about an hour. Take your time, luxurious shower, bubble bath, or whatever, that sort of thing. Going through the closet, picking out the outfit.
While your abode, your haven, your castle in the sky is well appointed and all but soundproof to the outside. How's her view when she finally dresses and moves into the living space instead of the unliving, sun-shielded spaces of her abode? How's her view?
It is probably very nice, and it also helps that she has a personal balcony. It's more like a patio.
The reason they ask, while most places understand that there are 4 seasons, New York, and specifically Manhattan, has a fifth. And whereas elsewhere it might be considered a just construction or an ongoing city project, there are at any point roughly 75 projects that require the blocking or the change of traffic patterns in New York. And that's not 75 a month or 75 a week. That's typically 75 a day that require a change to the traffic patterns. It requires cones or flaggers or the like. And it's all quite noisy and busy. And unlike most places, as long as there's a certain amount of commercial property in the area, those hours of construction stretch into the evening. So in preparation of heading downstairs and picking up the several messages that she knows is there, because there's been an uptick of flight in and out of the city. Lots of things being sent, lots of missives being sent and bound in various high price items. Wooden cigar humidors that you are sure hold anything and everything save actual cigars. Persons who've memorized certain codes or certain phrases that have to be delivered in person for the exchange of information, and various other so secret touchy things that you, having been able to see the tea leaves of change throughout the city, are immediately aware of. That activity, that frenetic pace, speaks to someone higher up the food chain involved in several things that may change the view for those beneath them. And everyone is beneath them as far as they're concerned. Everyone is beneath the tower as far as things are concerned. The recent activity is adding up to a particular picture. There is a small bit of active change or some such in the works. Your view, while nice, provides you with insights that might cause others to lose their nerve when it comes to the realities of night-to-night existence. Heading downstairs, it is quite simply a madhouse. There are several parties, several groups who've decided tonight is a night to scare themselves silly, to get lost in getting lost, to find their way out. It is that night. The spirit of Halloween having possessed everyone and sending them to do several foolish things, such as come to your abattoir disguised as a business. So it takes you a few seconds longer than expected to get all of your many messages. And one of those messages, the one that is the most troubling, is a gentleman that you've heard of, who was a mover and shaker, who was a keeper of scores, And just the merest hint of his name usually causes those who are aware of the moving and shaking that's done. T. Arturo kindly demands your presence and assistance. And you're giving an address, and not just any address, but the Chelsea waterside, out there near Pier 62, where all the yachts are easily seen from the view of the skate parks, and where 12th Avenue veers away from the waterfront so that the rich and idle who have access to all of the waterfront property from Chelsea Piers and the yacht charters and all of that upper crusty privateness, exclusive eliteness as being able to be smeared across everyone's face and nose with how well-to-do they are doing what they do. If you remember correctly, JFK Jr. was often hounded by paparazzi in the area. Him and his family, his actress, soon-to-be wife, and there's a whole deal out there.
Fabulous. She will make her way back up to her residence and go through her wardrobe again to find something more appropriate for the locale. Wouldn't want to stand out too much.
Oh no, just the right bit in the right measure at the right time.
Once that's done, she would go downstairs to the basement, turned garage, pick the correct vehicle. Clearly
Impressions
not
make all
the
the difference.
motorcycles. Right. I mean, she could go really, really out there and use her 36 Speedster. Not many of those driving around. Not terribly great gas mileage, but it does make a statement.
It does indeed. So it's clear that you will have every intentions of being fashionably, politely late, of course.
Yes.
And speaking of fashionably, politely late, seconds make all the difference in the world. Literal seconds. By pausing just as you did, you managed to remain here, this side of death, in the physical world. You're sure that you might have survived the hit, at least the initial one. What happened after that could be anybody's guess. You read a story that you heard from somebody, had to look up, but yeah, a woman was killed 2 weeks ago, 150 feet from right where you're standing. And no one helped. No one put it up on YouTube or TikTok or Snapchat or anywhere else. No one helped. No one even bothered or seemed to bother. And you're almost sure why. Because while the myth of the American mafia was all honorable men and well-made two-piece suits with guns strapped to their shoulders, the truth of it is the American mafia is a group of cutthroats who live in a largely illusory world where violence begets success, and everybody wants to be tougher than the next person instead of just make money and survive. And as the clearly straight from central casting individual in the back seat of this dark on dark livery lets down the window, the frown on his face says it all. He would have much rather you lay down to make it easy for the car to hit than be inconvenienced in the least with being late. And the fact that he's not bothering to disguise the clearly unliving facet of his existence says a lot. The fuck are you doing?
Hey, people are fucking walking here.
Not for long with that fucking attitude. Watch where you're fucking going.
Yeah, whatever.
The question here, because his gaze is taking the entirety of you in. You didn't mention that you blush for the evening, but is that part of baby's normal preparations for boot scooting in and out of her apartment?
Probably. She doesn't have a whole lot of trouble catching prey, so little wasted blood is not a big deal to her.
So he thinks that you are, in fact, a very mouthy upstart. It takes him a second, but you've seen that look on several kindred throughout the years, mistaking the appearance of life for actually being life. And as he takes you in, his gaze softens a little bit, just a hair. And your status is only 1, correct?
It is, yep.
So with the +1 of your status, what is your total die pool for your charisma and either intimidation or persuasion?
Would my intimidation specialty of threat supply? Because that would make it 7, otherwise it's 6.
7. His gaze
Plus-
softens.
Plus the status, so I guess 8.
Oh. His gaze softens a little bit as he actually fully takes you in. The squirrel cage in his brain is spinning nonstop. You can almost smell the ungreased metal on metal beginning to burn and heat up. His frown quickly returns. What? And he stops himself. And he leans forward, taps his driver. The driver puts the car into park and steps out. The driver doesn't really pay much attention to you. He's just doing what he's told. And he has the perpetual look of someone who's constantly exasperated by working for fucking idiots or worse. And he moves around the car and opens the door. The other cars behind them are honking and swerving out in the way. Several Bibles worth of expletives are being tossed out. Several more throwing trash as they're just far enough away for it to miss, but the intention is clearly there. And the driver opens the door. Fucking God. And the guy in the back steps out.
She says, well, you need a better look. Does a little spin.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that entirely. Look, maybe I got off on the wrong foot. You look familiar. Like a cousin of a cousin or something like that. Forgive me. Allow me to make it up to you and the other members of your family. From my family to yours. Would you be so kind as to join me? There's a little get-together going on. For those of us who are distant relation, distant kin.
She smirks at him and does the little finger to the eye thing, the little stereotypical mafia thing, and laughs.
Yeah. One quick second. Sorry about that. He smirks, motions towards the back seat of the well-appointed livery. And the driver's rolling his eyes. It's clear that he's been in this situation before, but doesn't realize exactly what this situation is, and assumes, based on your address and his client, the worst.
So, you're not gonna like rape me and throw me in a dumpster, are you? Because I don't do that on Thursday.
Nah. I would never, rape you.
All right. I've been in a dumpster before. It's okay.
I think we all have been. Sometimes it's the best of some worlds, I suppose. This is my driver for the evening. If he plays his card right, I'm going to give him 5 stars. He's great. He's not the usual livery service, but he's seen enough to know enough to keep his lips shut. Right, Paul, Peter, uh, Patrick? My name's Adam, sir. Right. Adam. I was close. Good thing about this car here, I like this one, and the other models like it as he climbs in behind you. It's soundproof back here. He can't hear anything until we push the button. Lewis, just directly to where we're going at the pier, okay? Thanks, pal. Yes, sir. Yeah. And then driver closes the door, moves around, starts the car up, and off you guys are going. The moment that you all start going, he lets up the window, separating the passenger portion of the vehicle from the driver. The moment it closes, all seeming of acting human drops from him. Look, I recognize you in passing. It's hard to forget that hair. I meant no harm to your people that are still here, and so I don't want this to get out of hand between us. So I figured it'd work in my favor and work in your favor. We go to a little party. I treat you to a nice time. You get to mingle with the rest of us, and we forget my driver, the idiot that he is, almost killed you. Again.
Yeah, sure. I like parties.
That's a good thing. Thank you. And just this is a matter of me making amends. I'm normally a really nice guy, but you know how it is when these fuckers demand your appearance at their parties, right? You've been through this a couple of times, 2 or 3, right?
I mean, I don't get invited to too many parties anymore.
Yeah, your people, they got some things happen with them, right?
Yeah, well, we were always the troublemakers, right?
I thought so. I wasn't really too sure, but there's only so many any points towards the hair and the jacket. Look like you running around, especially in a city like this. You'd expect there be more red hairs and this, that, and the other, especially amongst us. But no, I tell you, like, you stand out. And forgive me for saying so, but you're a little obvious. Like, you could tell. Like, it's good. You really do blend in, but there's something about you that just makes it obvious. Like, you're one of us.
You say the nicest things.
I didn't bother to introduce myself. I'm sorry. I'm Dell to my friends. Not that I have too many close personal friends anymore, change of life and what have you. But I'm Dell. You probably know, a few of my business associates. You ever work with a guy named Tommy Bones?
Fucking Tommy Bones. I love Tommy Bones.
Yeah, he manages one of my businesses. Though, as far as everyone's concerned, he's the owner. Like there's him, and then there's the strip club over there in Hell's Kitchen. I own three of those. And anyway, you know the arrangement. We don't get involved in each other's business, but I'm kind of the exception. I'm what you might call an emissary. That's how I make my real daily bread. It ain't easy being the go-between my family and yours. Not yours specifically, but you know yours part of the unserving underneath the tower, everything beneath the tower, and all that.
Yeah, I know.
And again, forgive me for almost draining you dry and leaving you in a dumpster. That was probably what would have happened because I'm a little stressed. You know what these things are like. I don't mean any harm by it, but you Towerites, no offense, but you motherfuckers will drive anybody to drink. All of the pressure, all of the show, all of the... It's just so much. I think I'd prefer a vacation, but one where I can actually have a vacation.
She puts her feet up on the back of the seat. Says, "Yeah, I know. Don't worry, it'll be all right. Everyone knows me there. That's not necessarily a good thing, but you know."
Perfectly understandable. And again, thank you for doing this favor and accepting my apology so that our families can continue operating in the peaceful, loving, respectful relationship that we currently have. And speaking of peaceful, loving relationships, notes furiously piling up by the second, page after page after page. All of the detailed minutiae of everything that you've done with this particular batch. Jot it down. And you've gotten the depth at noticing the subtle differences in the room, in your lab, when he's near. He successfully snuck up on you once or twice in the last day. But you've gotten it down from the usual 10 or 20 with him just appearing there over your shoulders. Which in and of itself is progress. And all progress, of course, is good progress, right?
Naturally, of course.
And you notice the subtle difference in the room. At this point, you have roughly about, of the 200-page journal that you've had, you've got about 25 pages left. You're not sure exactly how many you've managed to work your way through in the last bit of an hour or more, but you're sure that a good portion of those last few pages may be, well, a little smudged here or there with how quickly you were moving across the page. And you feel him there, just outside of your view, just outside of your periphery behind you. You feel that presence. The fact that he hasn't said anything means that he is examining you.
Jacob will choose to ignore him for now and finish up his notes because he doesn't want to interrupt his train of thought right now. He knows that if his sire wants something, he'll come out and say it.
And he would, wouldn't he? Unless what he wants is something that you can't provide. And even in that, there's a very much passive. You're not living up to your potential, Jacob. And just as you're nearing completion, you've gotten the last portion nearly down, the last crucial small differences that you've made, the small changes of your normal process, and it has to be jotted down just perfectly because any variation could change the potential varied outcome, and it could be small enough that you might not notice it this next time if the change isn't. And Jacob, I see that you are continuing research instead of experimentation. It's to be expected you would have such a thing. Your presence is required.
What for?
Would knowing the reason why change your required attendance?
It might change my sense of urgency.
I see. I shall pass along your intended sense of urgency to Regent Eckhart.
That won't be necessary. Where am I going?
You are to attend Regent Eckhart at a gathering along the western docks. You will, in lieu of being more beneficial here, in lieu of utilizing more resources, you will attend in the company of Regent Eckhart, and you will do as expected, which I believe amounts to failing, but perhaps less than you would if allowed to your own devices. And I'm sure that we've spoken on the matter, and we will again when your tribunal next comes due. But why exactly did you not return with the expected? It was a simple task, yet you returned empty-handed.
Complications arose, and were swiftly dealt with to the best of our ability. Even if what we got wasn't exactly what we hoped for, we were still able to get some connections out of it. I made the best of a bad situation, that's all there is to it.
But is it? In the grand scheme of things, there is success and there is failure. All things else but excuses to explain one and minimize the other. Which of those do you suppose your response to a simple question might be viewed as?
Success. And he gives a not so subtle smirk, as if he's intentionally trying to be contrary.
As expected. I do so hate being wrong. Hopefully, before you've exhausted the resources allotted to your continued state, you will achieve some measure of the potential that lie ahead of you, that was seen all those whiles ago. I wish you luck this evening. Regent Eckhart and the Kenilworth Chantry are not known for their senses of humor. They abide the older, more respectful manner. Regent Eckhart is quite the individual amongst us. And I would normally say, rely on your training. I would normally say, trust in what you've been taught. Unfortunately, it seems that many of those lessons didn't quite settle into the firmament of your being. So I wish you all of the luck you might deserve. Don't be late.
Don't you love your metaphors? When I get back, I'd like to have a talk about the resources I've been given. Until then, I'll see you later.
Quite. We should hope so. Once more, just to assure that I have properly relayed, do not disappoint the regent.
I will not.
And much like the coldest of winter winds, suddenly there, rifling through your clothes and making sure that every portion underneath is explored and touched, leaving you in the most uncomfortable of positions. He's gone. Simply turns and slinks away into the shadows to be viewed no more. His presence gone, though lingering like bad cologne.
He turns back to the experiment that was on the table and the notebook that he finished. He puts the notebook in a lockbox on one of the shelves, and as for the experiment, he covers it up and puts it in storage for the time being. And then he will get himself ready, make himself look presentable, and head on out to the Western Docks. I believe that's what you said it was, right?
Yes. When he says the Western Docks, he literally means the portion there off of the 62nd where all the yachts are, where all of the upper crust elite, good family, money going back several generations, families are often photographed by the local social magazines and the society pages, and it's a hell during the day. There are very few events that that happen at night that are beset by the paparazzi or the light, but it's still no less prestigious of an environment. And the funny thing is, what most people don't realize about the chantries in New York, there are five. There are five chantries, and while each is nominally led by a region, each of them are secondary beneath the high regent, Sturbridge. She rules and leads the last vestiges of an organized pyramid. There's not even, as far as most people are concerned, another notable chantry between New York until you get all the way to Chicago. There are several chantries spread across that distance, often operating like depots for Tremere who need to travel across the country or get from one place to the next. But none of them are viewed with the same prestige as the Chantry of the Five Boroughs, which holds five different chantries with several regent level warlocks amongst their number. And while it is fundamental learning and part of the rote memorization of beginning first mystery Tremere, it is often difficult figuring or remembering which regent is assigned to which chantry, because each chantry has a regent secundus, and oftentimes a third regent in waiting, a tertiary regent as a backup and replacement for either of the regents in power of that chantry to, should they fail. And for the Kenilworth Chantry, Your sire was absolutely 100% accurate. They are considerably more older in their style and methodology. Many people consider them the most rudimentary of chantries because they keep to the old ways inside their chantry. Outside, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart from any other modern person, but inside, they insist on the robes of station. They insist on no modernity in dress. They insist on proper salutations to each higher ranked warlock, and on and on. They instill the difference between the circles of mystery. It is, for lack of a better word, like going back in time. And you've been assigned to attend Regent Eckhart of the Kenilworth Chantry. You can only imagine what sort of feelings of being put upon that might instill.
He has big shoes to fill, and he'd be lying if if he didn't say that there was some part of him that was nervous.
Yes, but he has been taught from his years of education and from all of his actual successes that have brought him here that even afraid, what must be done will be done, and do it afraid, do it worried, do it stressed, but do it all the same. Failure is not an option, or at least it hadn't been until joining the Chantry. Which is the problem when meeting Regent Eckhart. As you dress and prepare and head down to meet the Regent, he is the antithesis of what you would expect. He has a Van Dyke goatee and mustache. He's mostly unshaven. It is clear that he's just letting whatever happens with his facial hair to have happened. He's wearing a large brimmed fedora styled hat, a full on Windsor knot, and strangely older styled collared shirt. His jacket looks something out of the late 1800s. It's thick and heavy and made to withstand the ill-suited temperatures of the city as a whole, back before towers created corridors of wind and violence against each person, where the wind had time to really work you over. And then there's his shoes. Not the polished, immaculately done shoes of your sire. And it's clear that he takes great pride in his shoes, your sire, of course. Whereas Regent Eckhart looks as if he just pulled on whatever pair happened to be close at hand. In his circle of associates, there's several other faces you recognize from the Maupassant Room Chantry, from the Kenilworth Chantry, from the Chantry, the actual primary Chantry of the Five Boroughs, and one or two of the other neophytes from your Chantry, including the prodigy, Aaron. He is a street kid, or at least that's the rumor and gossip. A street kid they found with the most alluring of potential. He got it. He was able to, well, the rumors vary. He was either able to catalog and track the goings on of other kindred without being found out by any of the authorities in his life, and actually approach a kindred on his under his own power, or he managed to stop a kindred from feeding on him or some such. Whatever it was, he impressed just the right person at just the right time with the potential that lay ahead of him for seeing things that he shouldn't.
Before going over to meet any of them, Jacob's going to take a moment to try and take things seriously, because the way in my mind that I'm imagining this Eckhard to look, it feels like he's trying to look like the circus ringmaster and a cowboy at the same time.
That wouldn't be all that far from the truth.
But yeah, once Jacob is done trying to focus on the seriousness of the situation and not try and laugh at this interesting choice in fashion, he will approach them and join the crowd? Question mark? If there is a crowd.
The cadre, the gang, the group of kindred which, if you didn't know any better, if you were just to go based off of popular ideas on style, they look like a gang of ruffians to do some ungodly thing to someone else. Eckhart is the very definition of a man of action from an older time. He looks very much as if someone was making a C-level remake of Indiana Jones crossed with Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Bronze. He looks very much the part of the intrepid 18th century explorer dressed for public consumption. Cleaned up a little bit, that once every quarter of the year shower and bath having happened. Didn't quite get a chance to go to the barber, but at least his hair is pulled back so that it looks as if he's been clean shaven as far as his hair goes. His facial hair doesn't matter entirely, but you're clear that that's a purposeful misdirect. Get everyone looking left, then go right. Get everyone looking right, then go left. And as you compose yourself and take a moment to take in this gang of would-be, you're not sure. He checks his pocket watch, places it back into his waistcoat, and calls out as he claps his hands together. We are nearly fashionably so. Apprentice Barnes, are you with us?
I am, yes.
Excellent. Our mission is quite simple, gentlemen. We will represent the warlocks at this soiree for Harpy Arturo. We will perform admirably well and more so, and comport ourselves as if this is in fact the best and most applicable environment for us all. We will astound them, we will dismay their concerns, and we will extricate with every ounce of intelligence we might find. Arturo is notable for his connections throughout the remainder of the city. Arturo is also, much like other kindred outside of this hallowed institution, to be untrusted as much as he is to be respected. This gathering called without any proper planning or invitation. It is to yield something, and whatever it is to yield, we will return with knowledge of. Are we in fact clear, each of you chosen, of course, by your physical age and countenance, so that we might best appeal to those lesser kindred, those artistes who will very readily share information with those they might find somewhat attractive or interesting. Are we clear?
Crystal clear.
Excellent. Shall we be off? And with the furl of his
And
coat,
Jacob will
and Jacob will.
nod.
And very much as if there's a camera on him, very much as if there was a movie or a TV show or a book in the offing. His coat furls and flails behind him as he turns and strides forward. You can see him on the cover of some pulpy novel, hacking his way through a jungle, or riding a horse across the plains, or climbing some mountain in something written by Jules Verne's or one of his contemporaries. And speaking of contemporaries and fantasies and things that are solely in the mind's eye, Lyric, the envelope. You have it. Does she put it away, or does she bother to inspect it? And does she wait till she's alone or find a quiet place, or does she just open it there in front of Sonia? Sunny to her friends.
Her mom always said, "Don't count your money in front of people, because then they know what you got and can plot on you." So, what she would do is thank her for her for the envelope, stick it in her inner pocket, and go find somewhere private to open it, like probably in the booth at the door where she checks IDs.
Oh, that is in fact a very good place to be seen, to watch what's happening around you, and to be wary. Lyric's natural sixth sense when it comes to those things, the mindless aggression of her fellow mortal and immortal, has always paid dividends. It's considerably stronger than it was during her living days, but is also something that she developed as a survivor's trait growing up where she did, living through the moments that she has. The relevance of that when opening the envelope is that it is immediately triggered. Opening the envelope is endemically problematic. There are bills, roughly an inch thick. Bills. All not brand new, but crisp enough to be easily confused as such. Money that's gone through hands just enough times to have a little feathering at the edge, but otherwise lie perfectly still atop one another. You're sure that even most of these don't have the usual amounts of cocaine and other inhaled substances about them. And the danger of the envelope, the note, the letter. Handwritten, not typed out nor printed off of some computer screen, but actually written and jotted down. The swirling, lilting script. It is but one hand that you know. And while the gist is simple, the understanding of it is another matter entirely. It boils down to, as you read and reread, hey yo, she had bigger plans. I'll be in touch. There's a lot of little idiotic in-jokes sprinkled throughout, and it drifts and rambles and doubles back on itself several times, but that's the gist of it. No details are given, no pointing as to where or how or any details that someone not aware of the writer or the author would be able to pinpoint to gauge their surroundings or leap to what the next step would mean or what it actually says. It, from a distance, looks like the sort of thing you'd get from a would-be suitor in high school or early college. It's the long-handed, long-form, stumbling, starting, stopping, trying to sum up, trying to phrase, trying to rephrase, trying to start, say it again. But that's what it boils down to. And as long as it is, as rambling as it is, as filled with the voice of its author as it is, it is not in fact enough. Especially that last bit. Especially that last few lines that circles back, and explains why without saying why. That last bit.
Reading it, her first instinct is to shred it to pieces, but then she gets the better of herself. Sometimes I'm shoving my face. But I can't do that right now because he's not here. And then she sticks the letter in her inner pocket, separating out the envelope with the money and puts that on the other side.
It's annoying having just enough of something to give you the idea of what it could have been and not enough of a thing for it to actually be that. It's the sample size of a sample that makes it all the more annoying because you can't really gauge the value of it. It's the insistence that there's so much more there without the veracity of it being proven. It is all of those things, and it's only the insult to the injury because as you put things away and you settle in, Isaiah is standing there, just standing there looking at you. It's clear that he doesn't have anything violent or untoward in mind, but the fact that he's standing there quietly, almost inhumanly quiet, standing there, watching you. The question becomes, how long was he there? Without any intent for violence, he doesn't trigger your sense. He doesn't cause you to respond to his presence, and he's just fucking standing there. Most people would know to at least strike up a conversation or clear their throat or make noise, but no, he's just fucking standing there.
Catching the fact that he's standing there, not quite jump, but there's definitely a what the fuck look going across her face. She looks at him. How's your night, Isaiah? What's going on with you?
Tamika wants to see you. Where's your friend? I was hoping to catch him and fuck him up real fast so no one knows.
don't want to fight you. You know that. But threaten him again.
You know it's not a threat. But fine. Tamika said bring you, I'm bringing you. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. And while she knows she has to leave right away, she there's usually like a backup person just in case she has to go break up a fight. That person is going to take her spot. They're just human, but there's like a big beefy guy that she normally works with. Um, Yo, I need you to cover me.
He frowns, looks past you. What, for that guy? You want me to fuck him up for you?
uh, I'd love to see that shit, but at the same time, I don't think it would go well on either side. Not that you're not, she flexes because she's got her jacket off, so her arms are visible, and she's got bare muscle, so she flexes. You're buff and all, but yeah, that one's a little crazier than you think she is.
He looks fucking
So
weird to
you know
me,
how
but
to. I Nah, I'm good.
Sonny's
So,
gonna give me shit for you leaving,
thank
right?
you. Sunny's always giving everybody shit. You know that. But I'll make it up to her. She gives her a wink because she knows there are people that are talking shit about her. Some of the strippers think she's a lesbian, so she's just gonna go with it. Gives them a wink. Yeah, I'll make it up to her. And then steps out of the booth, grabs her jacket and puts it on, and heads out the door with Isaiah.
As simple as it was to leave, not quite as simple as it would have been with a good excuse or someone to play off of. Isaiah standing very much looking as if he is possessed by the spirit of, well, the wild. He literally, as easily as he blends in, as quiet as he is, he very much looks like the wild thing that, well, you all are perceived as. Very much like he doesn't quite belong in society. As if the natural life, the unnatural existence of that style of immortality has become all that he is.
I'm walking with him. Yo, when's the last time you took a shower or jumped in the fountain or anything? Water touched you at all?
It rained last night.
She makes a face. I still don't know how the fuck you snuck up on me smelling like that.
I don't smell. You're sensitive. I don't mask what little scent I have with colognes, deodorants, the fakery. I'm not sure if you understand that, but we're not fucking alive. You know that, right?
We aren't alive, but we live in an alive world. We're supposed to blend in. I have a regular ass job. I can't go in there smelling like ass cheeks and Cheetos.
What you do with your spare time is your concern, not mine.
She just kind of like leaves it because she knows this argument is not going to go anywhere. They have had this argument many a time.
Which is funny. You think that the frequency of which you would attempt to bring him and other gangrel throughout the city around to the idea of being part of society and using it as camouflage, that it would take root, that it would settle in. And the worst thing is, it's not simply just because of who you are in the job that you have, but just it makes sense to your way of thinking that the best way for the wolf to sneak amongst the sheep is to look like a sheep. And they don't. Even those like Isaiah or Julia or Declan that can easily blend in, they can pop up out of nowhere, that seem to materialize out of fairy dust and good wishes, even they are several steps removed from the idea of appearing as one of the sheep, as being convincingly part of the ebb and flow of everyday society. Their absence of those small telltale things makes them stand out to your way of thinking. You're sure your way of thinking is right. Because if you were a hunter of kindred, you'd know that they were. Even with them blushed, even with them vibrantly, clearly from a distance alive, it would stand out to you. Yet you can't convince them that their way is anything more than right. And it's sad when you think of them, that you know if shit hits the fan, that while they may be able to disappear, it wouldn't take long to piece together what they were.
Yeah, there's definitely that feeling of we've had this conversation before. Why don't you understand? And I'm sure they feel the same way. We've had this conversation before. Why don't you understand? This is how we are. But you can lead a horse to water, can't make his ass wash in it. So that's kind of where she is with this.
It makes the trek to the park all the more difficult. Normally there'd be conversation and engaging in sharing of space and personhood. All of that's missing. All of that, even the social niceties of dealing with Jacob, Penny from a distance. There's conversation, there's getting to know them, there's just the filling of the space with the facsimile of life. You and Isaiah stalk across the city. It takes everything in you to not pull him up by his short and curly and stop him from moving. It, like what he is, a predator on two legs. You see a few people who would normally not bother to move out of the way, move out of the way. In New York, that's not done. You get shoulder checked and ask a question like, what the fuck your problem? People move out of the way of him. People move out of the way from half a block down. It's in your head. You see it like a contagion. Like you can follow the spore trail of this predator. If you were able to see the city from top down or you were watching from a distance, you'd be able to track their movement by the flow of foot traffic around you. And it makes it more difficult to ignore because there's no conversation, there's no interaction, there's single-minded focus of getting where you're going in a way that is wholly unlike the average New Yorker. And even though you can see it, even though you know when you cross the threshold and are entering into the park, he says it. We're here. You know where to meet her. And he slinks off into a bush, just all but disappearing from sight.
She just stands there for a second watching him like, ugh, I can't believe this. And then she makes her way to where she knows her sire will be. Almost at a light jog, wanting to get this over with, because it's not often that she gets summoned.
No, it isn't. There are so many facets and factors to that relationship that it is a difficult thing to imagine why. There's nothing pressing. There's the park which you were secretly fearing would be on fire or besieged or some of those things that you've heard out there in the night closing in on this little portion of territory that you guys have called your own, or more specifically she's called her own, aren't there. So there's no visible emergency or reason for the summons, yet you can't see it for anything except that it was in fact a summons. And as you close on the area, instead of waiting for you to settle and then approaching as one would another predator, she's already there sitting on the bench. She's already waiting, visible to you. And as you close on her, picking out what to wear, Penny, is a difficult thing because you want to, it wasn't the easiest thing dressing for just the right statement when you get there. Again, Arturo, his name carries weight. There are certain connotations to consider, but there's also your connotation, your status amongst the tower, your standing. And unlike your few burgeoning steps into proper, upwardly mobile central society, you weren't representing the clan as a whole. You weren't showing off how well you could have been taught. Those days are gone. You're representing you. Your standing is at play. Your reputation is what will be judged by what you've chosen. And your appearance and your carriage. And while Arturo isn't loved by anyone, he's respected. He was part of the harpies that placed the prince upon the throne. He was part of the machine that has the youngest prince in all New York history sitting on their throne. Prince Panhard, a veritable liberal ideologue as far as such things go. The tower has recognized a thin blood as actual primogen. You all have a Banu Hakim primogen. You have a La Sombra primogen. You have every representative of most upstanding clans on the primogen here in New York. And her policies, even though everyone knows that there is a cabinet of scourges in New York City, and that there's always an active hunt for those who are not actually tower in and around Manhattan. But there's no one with the official title of Scourge. Everyone knows who the cabinet of Scourges are. Everyone recognizes them for what they are. But the fact that Prince Panhard does not have an active declared scourge, and that the Primogen Council has a thin blood amongst its members has made her the darling of the tower. Her liberal policies helping maintain the second city of all towerites in the continental United States. While New York is not the capital of the country nor the capital of the kindred community, it is a very important domain. And having such a liberal understanding, Prince, lead it into tomorrow is a thing. It is a huge thing. So, what do you wear? Is the question.
That is a fabulous question. To match the 30s aesthetic of her car, probably something similar to that, but modern. Wouldn't do to wear a skirt. At least not something that's obviously a skirt. And of course,
Introductions being what they are, expectations being as they are. The drive across the city has its own ebb and flow, even at this hour of the evening. It's just early enough where there is considerably more traffic than one might expect, and considerably less at the same time. Being a New Yorker, this is nothing new. This is the usual, done in the usual ways and the usual manners, with all of the usual expected occasional having to roll down the window and give someone the dirty look, or worse. Parking, however, is another matter entirely. Normally there'd be a flock of valets. Normally there'd be the patrol car or two sitting there at the curb. Normally there'd be several news vans and paparazzis and other vehicles sitting not far away, if this was the normal get-together here with New York's upper crust elite. There are still security measures in place. There are still very much attendants in place. But there aren't any fleet of red-vested, black-tie, white shirt wearing individuals wearing some windbreaker with the name of their company on it. No, you have gentlemen that would be straight out of central casting for the next Men in Black. Dark suits, white shirts, dark ties, clearly packing what the old movies called heat. Clearly designed to be able to attend to any issue that might get out of hand physically. Clearly there to send the message that despite the open air, despite the evening, despite the location, that all things are still well in hand. It's the sort of security detail that minor dignitaries such as mayors or police chiefs or the like would have at hand. Competent, capable, but fairly inexpensive when it comes to such things. So as you ease into the line, two of them move around the car, one moving up and down the passenger side nearest the curb, the other moving around the car and opening your door for you. Madam, you're on the list.
I do believe so. She'll produce her letter.
I see. And he holds the door open for you and motions with his left hand towards the building where everyone else is gathering. They're waiting for you inside. Understand that there will be a round of aperitifs if they are not already being served. Do you need any assistance?
No, I'm quite well, thank you. She'll take his hand and get out of the car, all dainty-like.
When's the last time you fed from someone who could put up a fight, who could take the stress of it all?
Oh, it's been a while. Like, she usually likes the scared ones that she can just snatch out of her little private room.
Like a
It's all
faintly
part of the show,
remembered,
you know.
like a faintly remembered delicious slice. You know what's bad for you, and it's been a while, and your sure nostalgia is playing its tune inside your head, but the sheer warmth of his hand and the strength therein is very much triggering that. When's the last time I fought someone that might fight back? When's the last time you've broken someone really to your will and not had them already tenderized? When's the last time you had something hot and meaty causing your world to shift towards willing to fight God? Oh, that lovely, lovely blood. It is a thing on its own to drink from those sorts of individuals. And again, you're sure that a good portion of it is in fact
Probably been
nostalgia.
a while. Indeed.
So, allowing those thoughts to dance around the edge of your subconscious and consider the slab of beef there for your taking. You make your way into the building. And it is exactly as you feared it would be. Some hastily put together, overdone soiree with kindred gathered in twos and threes here and there, and the unforgettable scent of fresh blood in those oh so very tastefully dark glasses that are circulating the room. The air is filled with it. It's one of the few drawbacks of such gatherings as this. A free meal is a free meal as far as things go, but there's no such thing as free here. All of those goblets, all of those glasses come with strings attached, inherent. All of that iron rich scent hanging over the air and perfuming it are lives lost. Eventually, if not tonight, or if not already deceased, you are sure that somewhere out there are several no longer existing individuals, or soon to be no longer existing individuals, who are providing for this gaggle of monsters, who verify their monstrousness with each sip and each small, quiet, whispered aside, who are taking part in the ostentation because to do otherwise would make them victims to their peers. Not being here is very much worse than being here, yet being here is its own sort of hell, because there are rites and rituals you have to obey. Of course, you must be respectful. Of course, you must engage in conversation and excusing yourself. And of course, you must not step on anyone's toes while also counting coup. And of course, and of course, and of course, and the social, societal rules, feeling very much like lodestones, very much like gravestones, very much like a landslide heading in your general direction.
She will take a deep breath in and exhale as she looks around the room. Just as she walks by, pull up a goblet off of one of the trays that I assume people are just walking around with. and just go mingle.
You are a notable member of society. What that means is far different than what most people expect. Notable means that you can be relied upon for a certain extent. Notable means you can be used for a certain extent. Unlike the wholesome idea of being notable is second only to being invisible. Invisible, you get all the freedoms in the world and none of the protections. Being notable means that for your standing, for the respect that you are entitled by being where you stand, there are those above you who demand that same and more in service to the idea of the tower, because everyone serves the tower. As you take one of the classes, one of the aperitifs, and you glance here and there around the space, trying to find your level, trying to find who it is that you might best be associated with and whom you might better avoid. Because it's a sad fact and a sad truth that what it is perceived as is what it becomes. And then you spy Jacob. And as you and Jacob lock eyes across this gathering of elite kindred, a very uncomfortable question begins to bubble up. You know he doesn't have any standing. You know that there's very little reason for a kindred with no status to be invited to an elite gathering such as this.
She will arch an eyebrow at him questioningly. And then she will saunter on over and give him the most uncomfortable air kisses he's ever received. Jacob, darling, you must introduce me to your benefactors.
Oh, trust me, you wouldn't want that. By the way, how have you been this last week?
Oh, I have been delightful. Very much in my home element, so to speak.
That's wonderful to hear. I wasn't expecting to see any familiar faces here. What are you doing here exactly?
Judging by the attendance, it's my... Well, let's just say how known I am amongst our group. Sometimes it pays to have a long history.
I didn't realize that you were such a big shot. Perhaps you'd care to introduce me to some of the... some of the other people here.
And as if right on cue, when you say some of the other people here, in walks the red-haired wild child baby doll. On her arm, that's the best way to really get the grasp of it. There's someone from Central casting for every mafia movie that has ever been made, including all of the made-for-TV versions. He's just old enough to start to seem mature, just young enough to be vibrant and active, dressed in a suit that would look better, well, in the 1950s with a modern cut. His shoes, polished though they are clearly not hand tailored. They're well purchased and clearly expensive, but it's the sort of expense that you can find off a rack somewhere. His lack of blush, his lack of tinting the beast aroused denotes what he is from a mile away. And yet, he moves as if he owns the space. His chest is stuck out, his chin is high, and he exchanges nods here and there. And actually, you can hear him. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Hey, hi, hey. And people, instead of laughing or pointing fingers, begin to whisper and murmur amongst themselves. Is that Dell? That's fucking Dell. Yeah, I didn't think they would be. Oh my God, the fucking Nakata. Here? Yeah, they're fucking here. Look, right there. Nah. As a musician, baby, there's an understanding when you have the audience's attention. Everyone, as of late, not everyone, but enough people as of late are accustomed to listening to music nonstop. People are accustomed to digitized versions of songs. The natural live affects them differently. Everyone's accustomed to a background song playing. So oftentimes, especially for lower paying gigs, people are talking as the band plays. Their attention isn't fully on the band. They take for granted the band's efforts and energy and think that they're, a living iPod or a living Zoom instead of actual entertainers. So you've grown accustomed and understand when you actually have the audience's attention, when you actually have the viewers out there in the dark paying attention. And it is clear the moment that you and Dell walk through the door that you have nearly everyone's attention except for those who are purposely attempting to show that you don't. And you can see the whispered, hushed, quickly stated questions and answers and slight nodding and pointing with their chins to not draw attention to themselves.
Looks like we're making quite the entrance.
Yeah, I expected as much. It's not too often where our families show any sense of solidarity, more like casual invisibility to one another. This is a good thing, right? These are your people. I need you to point out anybody who's doing something weird. Because one thing that I won't take, even with the thing being as it is fucking disrespect. I'm sure you've seen my behaviors with disrespect, and I want you to kind of help me gauge what's worthy of responding to. Like these all, hey, how you doing? Hey. All these people they're fucking accustomed to seeing kindred. They are kindred. Why are they fucking so? Hey, how you doing? Hey, it's a little fucking rude, Like I can't fucking hear them.
These parties are all about being rude. Everybody's doing something disrespectful. You just kind of gotta suck it up. Make the fun where you can.
Okay, sound like a plan. I can do this. We can get through this. Just gotta wait for. I guess we gotta wait for. We got here too early, waiting for our troll to make a fucking appearance. Hey! And he waves at another person and just takes two glasses. And it's clear that he's not quite accustomed to this echelon of behaviors, because instead of taking the nearest ones to the edge so that the person circulating with the tray won't become unbalanced, he grabs the one from the middle and the one next to it that seems slightly fuller and lifts them straight up off the platter, causing it to become unbalanced, and hands one to you, takes one for himself. There you go. That one's for you. Let's go. You want this one. This one's a little more full, but I thought that I could use the pick me up.
Nah, sweetie, you have whichever one you want. I prefer the grape on the vine, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be rude to not take part of our churros kindness? Like this for this. I know it's not free, but it's got to be free. Look, so many everybody else is drinking.
Yeah, well, when in Rome doesn't always be a good thing.
You're right.
But go ahead, it's not for me. I'll hold it like a prop. It's okay.
You're right. I'll hold it too. And as you two are talking, Penny, Jacob, you see Baby Doll. You've all met in passing. She's not quite a full-fledged outsider, but she's as in as you can be and not be a climber. Yet it seems as if she suddenly jumped 2, maybe 3 rungs in regards to the attention being paid in her general direction. And as if that was not enough of a shock. As if that was not enough surprises for one evening. Entering quickly behind, blending in, and the only way that one can blend in these situations, by not, is Lyric.
Penny will sort of laugh softly without making any noise. Well, the evening just keeps getting more interesting.
More and more familiar faces are showing up. If I didn't
Yes.
know any better, I'd say this is some kind of fate happening.
Fate, perhaps. I can't say that I would expect many of. I'm so sorry, Jacob. You at an event like this?
As, well, between you and me, as Regent Eckhart put it, we were chosen as, the congregation to attend this party because of our appeasing looks and other interesting characteristics that might make us more agreeable to the lesser kindred that are here.
Penny will give a full laugh at that. Is that so?
Yes, we are literally here only to look pretty. Personally, I thought that was the Toreador's job, but what do I know?
She will happily loop her arm through Jacob's at that point. Well then, let's put on a show for them.
Gladly.
With the band striking up, with things moving at pace of themselves. It is 34 after the hour. Let's take a quick 10 and be back here at 44 after. Hi, folks. Everybody back?
Here.
Here.
Present.
Hmm. We seem to be experiencing some small technical difficulties for lyrics, so we're going to play on, and hopefully that they can clear those up shortly. All things being equal, a party comes with its own demands, its own etiquettes, and social mores. This is never truer than when the gathering of kindred numbers anywhere above 5. And based on the faces gathered in this room, you easily exceed that 9 to 11 times over. The faces, the undying, the undead voices spoken through seemings and facsimiles of humanity that make very little attempt to disguise the fact that they are in fact truly and utterly dead. As you all gather, as it were, with Penny linked arm to arm with Jacob, across the distance to Baby and Dell, is there anything that's being discussed?
Nah, is that my favorite Cuba? How you doing, fuck me eyes?
Good afternoon, evening, baby. I'm doing quite well. And yourself? Staying in trouble, I suppose?
I'm on my best behavior. This is Dell.
It's nice to meet you, Dell. She will hold her hand out, not to like shake it, but like the old style, like, here, take my hand and kiss it, like a gentleman type thing.
The understanding of certain levels of manner escapes most in this day and age. And as Penny extends her hand, he takes it in his left, giving it an awkward shake, holding on to the 4 of her fingers as if it is actually extended in the right manner, but he's literally shaking upside down. Nice to meet you. Taking that you guys know each other.
We've worked together on occasion.
So this your date, or you guys two are the same things?
Well, I don't know that I would call him my date. We're business acquaintances recently.
What sort of business?
Smuggling.
Ho ho! That sounds pretty lucrative.
Well, if you're just gonna come out and say it.
Baby here is an alright person. She won't tell. She'll wink.
Nah, I'm all respectable and trustable like.
So, are we the only ones that's not gonna know you two are sharing a secret? It's clear that whatever you guys are doing is clearly for consenting adult. Whatever you smuggle into whatever you're helping the smuggle, it's fine. Everybody has their thing. It's cool. Like we're cool.
Oh, damn, was that a euphemism? Are you guys doing the, she does finger quotes, the smuggling?
Penny will chuckle slightly. You could say that. Or not. Really up in the air.
Mm. I know what that means. That means you are, but it's none of our business. Forget we asked. Forget I asked. I don't know if you want to forget whether she asked or not. That's up to you. She knows you guys better than I suppose I should probably ever know you officially. But it's my pleasure to meet you both, and I wish you all the best of luck in your burgeoning smuggling.
Oh, absolutely. This darling boy here is getting quite the education.
I'm learning all kinds of things. She's a wonderful teacher.
Mind
Hey,
filled with the dirtiest of insinuations. His smile actually becomes a real smile.
hey, teacher. So Eyes here, she's pretty well connected. You might want to talk to her, Dale.
That's a good idea, though I don't think I could be up to the standard of education that you tend to like here. Here's the situation. I'm waiting to meet or get introduced to what's his name? Arturo, because of the situation that's burgeoning. And I happened to run afoul of one of your club members, and we got off on the wrong foot, but I figured, everybody could use a little distraction, and I take it that her standing of knowing folks would work in my benefit. Mutually beneficial, as it were.
Ah, I see. Well, I could introduce you. He's not here that I can see.
And then
It's a small thing, of course.
a small thing is a good thing. Small favors lead to big favors, lead to mutually beneficial relationships that last longer than the evening. Thank you for your assistance.
What sort of fucking world would we live in if we couldn't swap favors, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
It's a small world, and it gets smaller every day. I heard that they have this application of on the the computer, the laptop, that thing that you dial in and it goes and all that. But they have this application that, based on the picture that you put into it, can find other cameras in operation at the exact same time where that picture was taken, so they can track down where you were when that picture was taken. For instance, like if I went out on the out there on the veranda, the balcony, whatever that space is over there, and took a picture, you could put that picture into an application, and it will show you all of the other cameras pointing in that general direction to give you a location for which you could find where I was when I took that picture.
Get the fuck out of here. Really?
Yeah, it is scary how small the world is being. And this is like a free thing. You don't have to pay for it. I don't know why you wouldn't have, they wouldn't make it so that you could pay. You have to pay for it. But supposedly it's a free thing. So you could take old pictures and put them into a new thing and find where that person was based on the other cameras, and you could literally stalk somebody without ever having to leave the comfort of your own couch, your chair, or your coffee shop.
Fucking kids today can't even stalk without being fucking lazy.
Welcome back. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. And there's a lot of, I don't want to say certain people who have made inroads to that. And he stops and he looks over his shoulders at people who are talking about other people who are not you for, and realize that they're talking about Lyric.
Having gotten told it by her sire what it is she was expected to do, um, she made the quick trip back home, changed clothes into something more party like. Probably like a bodycon, knee length, in her typical black and red, a sufficient amount of cleavage, a little more makeup, got a ride share over the party. Um, Kind of coming in and noticing that as she steps in, that people are staring at her. She kind of like in her head and gives
Oh
everybody
my God, who's that?
a little half wave and is obviously feeling very much out of place.
Penny will just give her a wink.
Oh my God, they're letting anybody into this place. She must be plugged. What's up? What is Archero doing? This is ridiculous. What the fuck? Have you seen her before? I don't even know who she is. She's probably not even really one of us. She might be with Dill. No, look, they're staying apart.
Baby will shout across the room and be like, fucking Lyric, what are you doing, whore?
Just kind of winces for a minute. Your mom's? What? What are you talking about? And then she's like, hey, and walks over to Baby Doll after waving at Penny and seeing Jacob's there. And she's like, oh, thank God, people I know. And kind of like walks past Jacob and patting him on the shoulder. Nice to see you. I swore I was going to be like the outcast here. What's the matter
Penny
with you?
will Penny will disentangle herself from Jacob for just a moment to give Lyric air kisses.
Wait, are you smuggling both of them, Mr. Eyes?
Yeah, look at this
Something
guy.
like that.
Isn't that what they call a quadrangle ship these days, or isosceles ship, or well, I read about it in
Triad?
Newsweek. Oh yeah. Like there's got multiple legs and they all connect like a triangle. Yeah.
I don't know. When I was a kid, we just called it a hell of a Friday.
Oh,
I try to stay aware of these
sometimes being
things.
dead has its perks.
Jacob is not going to bother correcting them.
I try to stay aware of these things because it helps you blend in. By the way, nice to meet you. I'm Del.
Though, like the computers?
No, one Del. It's short for Delaventura, my family name, but everybody just calls me Del because Delaventura is hard to say for some strange fucking reason.
I
Do you
understand.
prefer Delaventura?
Del has grown on me. It's been what my moniker for like the last 26 years.
Lyric will give him a handshake, like a typical, not testing strength, not pissing contest, just chill, nice to meet you kind of handshake.
Here's the thing for Lyric. Because of their instinctual grasp of predators, for their instinctual grasp of monsters and other competitors in the dark for dangerous situations. Like all of the kindred gifts, proximity increases efficacy. And there's no closer proximity than touch. Despite the smile, despite the easygoing demeanor, the moment she touches Dell's strangely calloused hands, there's an understanding. There is a immediate disconnect with that smiling, relatively calm seeming that he has. It is clear that you are in the presence of a monster. There's no doubt in your mind that not only does Dell envision a path for killing everyone in this room again, but has already mapped out the greatest statistical probability of being able to pull that off. Who's the first target, who's the 16th target, how he's going to, and you can see that playing out in his head without it ever changing the smile on his face, without it ever changing his stance.
Lyric would recognize the fact that lions are fucking adorable, but they'll kill you horribly.
But they're
So
toadies.
oh, he's smiling at me, but he's dangerous. He gets that. He looks soft for the most part in certain ways, but she messes up people all the time. So it's respect for respect given. She understands that. Well, it's nice meeting you, Val.
Ah, pleasure's all mine.
So, what are we all doing here?
Well, I just want to say what we're all thinking, and that's that this room is like one tampon away from a fucking frenzy. So why the fuck are we here?
I would presume an announcement of some sort. Possibly just a show of, hello, look at me, I'm the best.
And as if right on cue, the moment that you get that out, Penny, there is a slowly starting at the back of the room, making his way around, people clapping off tune because, well, everyone grew up in a different period. Everyone came to being who they were during a different epoch of time. Whether it's just a few years here or there, 80s, 90s, 2010s, and even 2020s, there's a difference in the music epicenter of the society in which they died in. And so while some people are clapping on the 1 and 2 and 3. Some people are clapping only on the 2 and the 4. Some people are clapping on the 1 and the 3, or some people are clapping, God forbid, on the 1 and the 4. And yet they're trying to clap in acknowledgement of the appearance of the host. Arturo literally steps into the framed doorway of the veranda leading out to where several people had been out attempting to smoke or catch the sight. And in a room filled with undead monsters, the speed and alacrity necessary to make that illusion happen is a phenomenal show of the hand. It is flashing power in the most subtle of ways. Because there's no way you should be able to sneak up on a room filled with kindred. Yet there he is, perfectly framed in the door, his glasses immaculately matching his ensemble. A lovely white on white pinstripe. The subtle variations between the white and the brighter white that forms the pinstripes, just subtle enough so that it seems as if all the light in the room has coalesced to properly halo his entrance. Good evening, kindred.
Baby will lean over to Penny and very quietly say, "Isn't it after fucking Labor Day?"
I am glad for your appearance here. I'm glad for your timely arrival, and I am glad that you have each partaken of the hospitality of our city. After a few moments with certain individuals, we shall move on to the actual evening's festivities. At behest of Prince Panhard, there is a change in the open domain's viable and possible. We'll get to that in a moment. And he raises his hand and snaps. The moment that he does, a few of the black suited men who were operating as service staff begin closing and tapping certain kindred on the shoulders. Excuse me, maybe follow me right this way. You all watch several groups get pulled off to one room or the next room. And unfortunately for you all, everyone's watching, looking for where these men and these women are heading to, who they're tapping on the shoulder, and where they're being escorted to. And then there's a short, surprisingly waifish-looking woman. Her blonde hair pulled back in a severe ponytail, making it seem as if she has short, shorn hair. And she steps forward and clears her throat. Mr. Deleventura, are these guests with you? And then another black suited individual. No, I believe they're on the list as well. Mr. Barnes?
Jacob perks up when he hears his name.
Yes, I take it that you're with Miss George.
Storyteller, is that the first name of the regent?
No. In fact, it is not. Miss George, the delegate for the Outlanders, and he motions towards Lyric.
Actually, I was here with Regent Eckhard's group.
Oh, I see. There's been some discrepancy. Either way, we can make amendments, and I'm sure Mr. Arturo will take care of such matters directly. But if you would follow... No, I believe that they should go... Well, we can combine parties. And the moment that is stated and said, they both look towards you, Penny. And of course, if you would also follow us, madam.
Of course.
Almost as if they're afraid to actually say your name aloud. Almost as if they're purposefully allowing some anonymity to exist, as if directed. We're not quite sure, Miss Doll, if you are an acceptable personage, but if you'll follow. She's with me, don't worry about it. Of course, Mr. Delaventura, right this way.
What the fuck does he mean by acceptable?
I'm thinking that they don't like your style of dress. Look at me, I even cleaned up for the night.
I fucking stand out.
That you do, madam. Right this way, please.
Penny will link her arm in Jacob's once again and follow the group.
Heh, smuggling.
It takes all of 45 seconds to get all of the kindred who are seemingly hand-picked or grouped together into the separate small meeting chambers spread around the yacht club. That's what this is. While it is a public space, it is definitely a private space. It's definitely a being able to pay the slip rental fee for yachts sort of space. And the private meeting rooms spread around this floor of the building. Unlike taking a meeting room at the public library or local college campus, it's not appointed in IKEA Class D slotted together furniture. No, it's appointed as if someone has spent several thousands of dollars to make sure that this room seems individualistic, even though it's using similar furniture spread through all the other private rooms. It's one of those strange paradoxes where the more you spend, the less it seems as if you spent. While the less you spend, it seems very cheap and gaudy and purposefully done. Yet here you all are. The glass wall separating you from the open space and open floor of the rest of this area. The furniture looking as if it can take a beating and keep on ticking, even as it's clear that it never has. And expecting, because of associating with Mr. Delaventura and their knowledge of Miss Dahl, to be last on the list of private asides and conversations, you all are pleasantly awarded with Mr. Arturo moving into the room first. And the first thing he does is, "Thank you all for coming. Mr. Delaventura," and he sends his hand, shaking Miss Dell's hand. "Miss George," and he goes down the list, and he stops. "Penelope, darling," and he spreads his arms wide for an actual embrace and steps into a hug, wrapping his arms around you and giving you a air kiss that actually touches each cheek. "It is a pleasure to be amongst you all," he says, stepping back.
It is so nice to see you again, my dear.
Favors called in as they have been. I would like to say congratulations on your recent successes, and I hope that your recent alliance works to your benefit.
As do we all.
And, Mr. Delaventura, it is my understanding and my express pleasure to say that Prince Panhard has accepted your family's offer and will, in fact, provide. He smiles and looks to each of you all. A measure of protection for your business to help you properly set foot inside of Manhattan, to properly bridge the gap between our families and the financial growth of our fair city. Mr. Delaventura, might I introduce? No. Might you all have the pleasure of introducing yourselves to Mr. Delaventura for his upcoming enterprise as appointed and anointed by Prince Panhard. Your recent alliances have assured your services at our disposal for as of such a time as the balance of your previous debts have been paid.
How delightful. We have already made our lovely gentleman's acquaintance.
Oh, ain't that about a bitch? Talk about fate. What about Miss Dahl here? She's not part of the... Oh, but of course, she actually is. She's here! And she wouldn't be here illegally as a gatecrasher, would she? No, she's my guest. I mean... Well, excellent. Well, then you have use of all of these kindred to further your enterprise under the largesse of Prince Panhard. Are there any questions? Good. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. I have many other appointments to attend to. This debt, once properly meted out, will be considered moot. I wish you all luck on your burgeoning enterprise. And remember, to see it or die. He turns and leaves.
Baby lets out a deep, unnecessary breath, and it's obvious that it was literally painful for her to keep her mouth shut that long.
Dell actually sits down. There's a expectation of getting what we feel we deserve or getting what we want. And then there's the moment when that event horizon passes and you realize that what you believed you wanted and what you got, while exactly the same thing on paper, is completely and totally something else entirely. Well, fuck, he says. And the glass of blood that has been absently in his hand this entire time drops, spilling the blood over the carpet. And he just shakes his head. I guess we're in it now, huh?
Aren't we always?
You get fucked a little earlier than you thought there, baby?
What debt are they talking? Do you know? She looks at Jacob.
Do I know what exactly?
What debt he was talking about?
No, I have no clue.
I would presume the one over our dear old Chaz.
Hey, I'm not understanding how we owe anything. We did what we were asked to do for the most part. We were lied to just as well as anything else. But that's neither here nor there. Dell, you don't look all that enthused by the fact that we are slated to help you out.
No, I was hoping to get a nice no. I already got enough businesses spread across the city. This was wholly just to buy myself time to consolidate, refinance, and get the fuck out of the game. Unfortunately, Prince Panhard said yes. This has never been done before. A joint, my family, the Hakata, and you Towerites working together. This is supposed to be a no, so I can go back to my family and tell them that the offer was denied or rescinded, which would give me time to get my shit together, to get the fuck out of Dodge. Now, as it stands, I actually gotta fucking follow through on this.
Well, it certainly seems that we're all in this together then. So what is this?
Originally, it was a shell game. Moving the profits of one business to the next to make it seem far more profitable and get more backers. Small little percents, nothing so much that would ever require changing the ownership. But unfortunately, success breeds greediness and avarice and everybody else. And so now, I gotta prove true on my illustrious business venture. You all know Dumbo, right?
The
The
fucking
movie?
elephant?
No, Brooklyn. northwest Brooklyn, pretty much from the bridge all the way to the Williamsburg.
Oh yeah, I fucking know that.
I'm familiar with the area.
We're gonna have to fucking go to Brooklyn because that's gonna be inconvenient.
Who are you telling? That's the reason why I was trying to stall to get the fuck out of Dodge. But unfortunately, we have a developmental property that is comfortably close enough to be considered part of Manhattan, far enough away to be free of it, if you know what I mean. And while it is outside of my family's purview, it is the perfect area to exploit the public. We got a processing center going in down by the there's a whole bunch of New York sand and stone. There's a over there by the Akiva, pretty much for everywhere north of Steiner Studios, just outside the Brooklyn Navy Yards. We're putting in several full functioning facilities, or at least we are on paper. The problem is, I don't know if you notice or not, but Brooklyn's close enough and far enough away that we got roaches. You know, the fucking anarchs. Horning in.
I know them fuckers.
Good, that means that you can be fucking helpful.
I fucking hate Callahan. He's dead though, right?
Thank God. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're moving into the area. One of the many things that are designed to make this problematic and to get the no. This was supposed to be a no, but instead it's a fucking yes. So we're going to scout the area. You're going to use whatever contacts you got to speak for the anarchs. We're going to set up a location for us to operate out of and establish a beachhead. And in case you're wondering, yeah, we already got the location. I was just hoping to not have to ever use it. There's a brewery called the Evil Twin. I don't know if you know it or not. Just off of Water and Main. We own that building. Or more specifically, I own the rights to land for where that building is standing. And so far, most of the owners are willing to cave. Unfortunately, the anarchs are not willing to cave. So the backing of actual towerites is what's needed. Right in the shadow of the Manhattan and across from the Brooklyn. So we're going to be playing a game of King of the Hill as politely and respectfully as possible to establish, well, the tower across the bridge. If only I knew what blackmail got delivered over the Greenpoint. Like this whole week has been busy. We've been trying to track some of the couriers to try to cut off some of the information that the anarchists have been receiving from somebody here in the tower, but we don't know. But we'll figure it out. So, you guys want to go check it out? Or would you like to go back to your humble havens and pack up and leave the city now before we fail at this?
This could be very much fun.
I don't know. It's a rough choice between leaving the city or going to Brooklyn.
Come on, it's only a half an hour over the bridge with traffic.
Clearly, you don't know how I drive.
Clearly, you have found a way around all the tolls on the Brooklyn and all the traffic on the Manhattan.
She's like a fucking wizard with cars, man.
We could use that. We're going to be having to go back and forth a lot. If we're lucky.
Well, the current apparel choice and choice of vehicle for the evening was doing me no favors for the prospect of the joy to come.
Excellent. Well, let's do this. We get together tomorrow night. You guys know how to get there. You shouldn't have too much trouble. It's not hard to find the way to the evil twin. It is literally Maine and water. Be there tomorrow night, no later than an hour, hour and a half after sunrise, after sunset, and we'll get down to brass tacks. Oh,
Delightful.
and so that it's official, I want to thank you all for being voluntold into this. You all do whatever you can to have a good night. And he gets up.
You as well.
He gets up and begins walking towards the door, out the door, and on his way to meet with Paul, or Peter, or Patrick, or whatever his driver's name is.
Well, that went my date. Now I gotta figure out how to get smuggled.
I'm sure there are any number of lovely creatures out there that would be interested.
Oh yeah, is that an offer? Fuck me eyes.
Not from me.
Always a heartbreaker.
You know it.
Eric is watching the back and forth with the biggest fucking grin on her face that she's had since she's been witnessing.
Right. Alright, who needs a ride back?
I most likely will.
I don't know. Are you going to the village?
No, I'm going home.
And on that sentiment, with the promise of what the rest of the night might hold, and what tomorrow night definitely will bring, it is 29 after the hour, and I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode. This first inaugural episode of Season 2 of All of Us Sinners, titled Freedom to Live. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night all. I'll work on that accent.